Hey, how y'all doing today? So I know it's February. It is seed starting time. I mean, we're right in the early February. Now is the best time to start getting anything for your outdoor garden, especially kind of the cooler stuff like broccolis and lettuces and things like that. I'm even going to start some peppers and some of my tomatoes as well. I've noticed some of my peppers, they're kind of weird. They're a little bit slower starting. They typically have been taking me about like 14 to 20 days for them to sprout up. But some of my other stuff's a lot faster. Lettuce is usually, 3 to 5 days. Things like that are pretty quick to pop up. So you can just plan accordingly, like when you want to put those out. Because if you start them now, they should be ready and a good size by the time we get into our last frost. Typically, I know here in North Carolina, it's around the end of March is typically our last one. I've seen them go into April as well, but you never know. It's what the Farmer's Almanac is for. It does help you to identify when the best time to put them out is, what the best types of fruits and vegetables to put outside as well. But today, I'm just going to go over the easy way on how I start all of my seeds. What I've taken, I have Pro Mix just because it is basically inert. All that this stuff is it's peat moss, it's perlite, it has a little bit of lime, and it has a wetting agent. Now when I take it out of that bag, it is extremely dry. So I've added quite a bit of water to this already, so it's been saturating. I like my media to be wet. Now there's other options that you can use. We have like little peat plugs that you can put each one in, which I wouldn't start my lettuce in those. They're perfect for tomatoes and peppers because you have one individual plant. Well, I'm doing lettuce today. So I like to do these little 6-pack holders here. They come in one big long flat. I like these because you can tear them apart. They're a lot easier to get out when you do your transplanting. So what I like to do is just get this stuff super wet. And another reason why I like to use the Pro Mix versus some of the other soils is like Fox Farm, like Ocean Forest. It is a great soil, but it does have a lot of nutrients. And especially starting young little seedlings, you don't need that much nutrition because when that taproot comes out, it can burn the plant. I've seen it happen a lot of times. So at least with this way, I have an inert media. There's no nutrients to it. The lime is just a buffer, and there's really no nutrient content to it at all. So what I like to do is I'll literally just take these. I like to take them apart because it makes life a whole lot easier, and just put this in here. Pack it down fairly well. It doesn't have to be super tight, but it is nice to have it in there and packed down. Because what we're going to end up doing is I'm going to poke some holes in these, and that's where we're going to put our seeds at. Now, depending on what type of seeds you're starting, you can do different things. I know on my hemp side, some of those seeds are expensive and I like them to germinate. You have lots of options. I know some people would like to take a paper towel, get it wet, put your seeds inside of there, fold it up, put it inside of just like a Ziploc baggie, and you're doing that to hold all that humidity in there. And put it on top of your refrigerator. It's a little warm on top of there. It's not too hot. It's kind of like that perfect temperature to kind of help germinate seeds. I've seen people do it a lot that way. I've seen people start them the same way I'm going to start them. I traditionally on my hemp seeds is I plant them into some soils or into some starter plugs, and I've got a little humidome as well. And we're going to put that on top of these. The same concept of using that my mind's going blank today. The little Ziploc baggie. What that's doing is it's holding all that moisture inside of there to help those seeds sprout. But once that taproot inside of that baggie, as soon as it pops out, you want to get it out and plant it into some media. You don't want to let that taproot get really long and lanky and stuff like that. Get it into some soil, let that thing do its germination, and pop out that way. So today I'm just doing some lettuce just because I've got to get some started. Now there's many ways. You can use little sticks, little pokers, anything you want to. I just put just a tiny little hole in these things. It doesn't have to be deep. Something about like that. Just somewhere, because we're going to fill dirt back on top of this. I'll take my seed packet. Now with lettuce, I will add a good little amount to them. At least, 3 or 4 in each one. And the reason is just in case some of them don't sprout, you know they're going to be there, and you're going to have a nice full flat when you do it. I literally will just pinch these, and I'm putting 3 or 4 little seeds in here. We're going to let them all fill them all up, and I can still save my old seeds. My hands are filthy, but it'll still work. All right, so literally, so we have that. I've got some seeds in here. I'm going to sprinkle a little bit more dirt on top of these. pack it in. Now, it doesn't have to be super tight, but again, this soil is wet. I mean, you want to keep these wet. That's the only way they're going to germinate. And that's another reason I like to put that humidome on top of there, because it's keeping all that moisture in there and it's keeping them from drying out. Especially if you go out of town or if you just forget about it and you walk back there and everything is dry as a bone, you know you've planted your seeds on the top, so when they're dry, nothing's going to germinate anyways. So the best thing to do, you fill these things up, you pop your humidome on top of them, and then just set them to the side. So we'll have this whole flat tray filled. I'm not going to bore you and do every single one of these, but I just want to show you how I do mine. My tomatoes, same way. What I like to do is I'll only put one seed, because my tomatoes and peppers, they are larger seeds, so you don't have to sprinkle 3 or 4 of them in there. And ideally, and the reason I do these is because I do sell my 6-packs, so I want a nice, happy, a full foliage on these things. My tomatoes and peppers, even like these basils, like you can tell on my basil, not all of these germinated, believe it or not. I did use last year's seeds. Using last year's seeds, your germination rate does drop, but I still have a nice little amount of basil here, and I'll take each one of these out, transplant them into the next size containers. So at least that way, if you're in a space confined area, that's why these 72 cell inserts really do help. And because with that, I could do, if I'm only wanting to do 12 peppers, well, 12 of these, bam, I've got 2 of these. I can do my tomatoes, I can do some of my herbs as well, and you'll have everything that you want in one little small tray. So you can put it under a light. You're going to maximize your space on germinating seeds as well. And those basils that I just showed you, those I planted 2 weeks ago. So it took them about 14 days to get that full germination to where they are. I'm going to let them sit in there for probably another 7 days or so, and then I'll transplant them into like my next size containers up. But other than that, it's starting seeds. It's not as hard as it looks, but you do need to keep that wet. That's one thing I have noticed. I've let some dry out and they just will not germinate. Or if you've got them just a little tall and you forget to water them, they're gonna keel over. So I keep that humidome on them until they get about this tall, and there are these little slots on top of there, and what that does is it controls your humidity. So what I'll do is I'll leave that tab all the way closed when I start those to keep it at 90+% humidity, and then after that I'll slowly start to open those. Like once I see them germinate, I slowly start to open it, and what that's doing is it's taking that high humidity and it's slowly cutting it down from like 90 to 80 to 70, because our ambient temp or humidity, it's typically 40 to 60%. It depends on what time of the year too. Usually depending on what your heat source in the winter is, it's going to be a little bit drier heat, so you're typically 30 to 40%. Summertime comes around, there's a lot more moisture, it's hotter, it's more humid outside, and it gets up a little bit higher. But most everybody, they'll get their seeds started out. That's why I leave this in there, and the reason we're opening this is because I want to get the humidity inside of that humidome where my seeds are closer to my relevant humidity that I already have out here. I've seen plants get yay tall, take that humidity dome off, and it was 90%. Well, let's say it's dry heat in here. Let's say we're at 40%. So you're doing a 50% drop, and these plants will go from here and they'll just fall over. Especially on some of my hemp plants that I've started before, you get that tall little loop up, and I've had people say like, man, my plants just fell over. Well, it's that humidity drop. You want to slowly let it drop. Same way with doing clones. Clones are that same way in a humidome. You want to slowly open it up, drop that humidity to balance the ambient humidity that we already are at. All right, well, I hope this helps learn how to just, start some seeds and get you started in your garden this year. Y'all have a good one.